Hello, I
Hi.
am Jeff Mach, Dark Lord, and I am joined in the virtual studio by the one and only Commander Bob of famed French Steamgoth band, Victor Sierra.
Hello, Jeff. Hello, Magic Jeff.
uh, we're redoing our earlier interview as we had gremlins in the system and couldn't quite figure out why we were echoing.
Yeah, a lot of gremlins.
Bob, for those who don't know your work, can you tell us a little about Victor Sierra and what you do as a musician?
I'm a long-time musician. I've started music a long time ago, and with Anouk, the legendary converted princess, we founded Victor Serum between 2 centuries. That gives you an idea of the time we have spent together till now. And I'm doing everything in Victor Sierra except the singing. Uh, and machines and computers uh, done by Big Machine.
Big machine. Is
Yes.
that a person, place, or thing?
Ah, it's a person. It's some kind of self-made cyborg operating usually behind us on the keyboard stand. At the moment, um, we do a lot of virtual shows. We live stream a lot, and of course, he's not here. He's not playing with us at the moment. But usually, we have this big bearded guy behind us.
Well, I'm sorry that I can't be a big bearded guy next to you at the moment, but as you can see, I've shaved most of it off. I just have my morning 5 o'clock shadow.
And you are 20 years younger.
It's magic.
Yeah, magic, Jack.
I've been focusing a bit on how coronavirus has affected people, especially live in person entertainers, but I thought I'd talk a little more. Um, how did you develop about the band itself? How did you develop the sound for Victor Sierra? How did you develop the concept?
Um, the the fact is that we hadn't heard about steampunk, for example, until Big Machine joined the band, because simply we hadn't heard anything about it. But when we heard about that, it was like shoes waiting in the middle of the road for our feet. It was exactly it was our universe. Our universe. It was. Uh, we had songs about parallel universes where time didn't flow the usual way, the same way, and and this idea to explain the impossible with improbable theories, this kind of thing. We didn't have any problems to enter the steampunk world.
So you, is that part of how it's been so easy for you to slip into adjacent areas, steam goth, science fiction, and
Yeah. It was definitely easy for us to enter this world. We had a rather important goth component in our music, in our lyrics universe. We always put forward this concept of universe. We have our own world, our own universe, and steampunk came like a new facet, a new channel, a new channel of expression, a new channel to make our work more known, I would say.
Oh, where were you playing before Steampunk started its peculiar rise?
I must confess that we had a rather uh, I would say empty period of time just before meeting Steampunk. It is that in France, even if in France there is a lot of place to play, there is a lot of festival during summer. France actually is not an Anglo-Saxon country, and then France is not a music country. It's not a country of music. I mean that in England, in Great Britain, in America, usually around 5 in the afternoon, when you are walking in the streets, you have rather you have chances to hear musicians preparing, doing their sound check in bars for their
Yes.
little show. Even if it's a bar with no stage, with no lights, with no anything, you have musicians playing in bars, and then you have, of course, you have musicians playing in venues and big halls and everywhere. In France, it's not the same thing. Then it was rather complicated for us because we didn't enter any case. We weren't in a clear trend of music, in a clear musical trend. Then steampunk came right when it had to come.
So there was no genre that fit Victor Sierra until you found steampunk, or
No,
steampunk and you found each other.
yeah. It was actually very complicated for us. Steampunk came and uh, and un- untied a lot of knots.
Huh.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask about, I'm still going to ask about the current epidemic, but much as we love steampunk, steampunk has, for complicated reasons, uh, been on the decline in recent years. Has that affected Victor Sierra much?
I haven't heard you very well. I'm sorry.
Oh, steampunk appears to be somewhat on the decline. Has that been affecting you?
No, no, because at this very moment we are still a steampunk band, but we have renewed, if it's correct to say that in English, we have renewed our goth aspect. We have because we had left it for a long time. Even if, of course, we have this characteristic, but last year we had the totally unexpected chance to play for Steampunk Con in the US, and we had the opportunity to meet these fantastic people from Vampire Freaks, who were organizing this fabulous event. And Vampire Freaks are a goth organization, very central in the East Coast region of America. And then we realized that we also had this audience. It worked very well with the goth audience of Vampire Freaks.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and then we said to ourselves, okay, we can do goth as well, and it was a fantastic opportunity. I couldn't thank enough people who made that possible. If you see what I mean.
I see exactly what you mean. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
you know, I, especially as steampunk has become more complicated around these parts, I've been reattracted to Goth. I've been reattracted to. I think perhaps that when I was first getting into Goth, which was I'd say about 1,000,000 years ago, I didn't recognize its potential for embracing so vast a set of genres, and it is possible that people were a little more standoffish in the Goth scene of the late 1980s, or maybe I was just a kid and not as good at being social. I don't know. But the Goth scene that I see now is generally a much more embracing community.
Yeah, you're right. It is that actually Goth is very welcoming. You have, for example, if you listen to some songs of a very famous band like the Mission, for example, they have songs in which they use, for example, 12 strings guitar, which is really uh, a country music guitar, and in Goth, as in steampunk, but Goth is a much more large community. You can insert a very different kind of music into your music. And this is something that I like a lot, because in all my musician life, I never wanted to be stuck in a particular genre.
To be pigeonholed as just one thing.
Yes, yes, I didn't want that. And no, because we are in France, we are so much used to plans to closed groups, to closed community, not communicating between them. Uh, that when we came to play to Steampunk Con, organized by Vampire Freaks, we weren't afraid, but we thought that perhaps it could be a problem for the goth community to welcome a steampunk band. And in the end, it was definitely the opposite. It was a fantastic weekend last June, and then it was really a very, how shall I put it? Well, it was fantastic for us to know that we were so warmly welcome in this community.
I think that a lot of modern subcultures have really picked up the lesson that in a world with the blessings and the challenges of the internet, we either need to be more embracing as communities, more welcoming, more ready to be open minded, more accepting, or else those communities are often in trouble. And
Yes, you're right. You're right. And for example, I think that perhaps there is a problem in Great Britain, because you have both tendencies. You have a big part, a majority of people open to everything coming from everywhere in the world. The only problem is always the travel expenses. and
yes,
and you have another part which is much more close to their own musicians, their own people, not accepting. I won't say not accepting, but they have a priority with their own people, and then they are in a they have started to have a very closed circle, in which it is very very complicated to enter. Um,
yes, yes.
and it's not at the same level than in France. In France, you have some we have In Paris, it's almost impossible to play. For them not like us, it's almost impossible. And even in the French steampunk community, we don't have that much of a following. Our following is abroad.
And it's peculiar. I feel like in an internet age, there's really some importance on people internationally understanding that no matter what music they have access to, I mean, uh, at this point, it's entirely possible to be almost anywhere in the world and listen to any kind of music. You could be in, to give an example for me, you could be in Shanghai, China, and
Yes, you're right.
listen exclusively to, at that particular time, I was listening to quite a lot of K-pop, which is not the weirdest thing in the world. I suppose not the biggest contrast, and a lot of 70s soul music. And you can do that now, but if people aren't also able to embrace their local artists, their local music scenes, their local communities, no one's going to grow those artists if they don't have good places to, well, I guess that was the traditional wisdom that most artists need a good place to perform, a good home base, as it were. And now, of course, with the coming of coronavirus, um, we don't have the same ability to have a home base or a tour. We don't really have the same ability to do music live. Um, how is that affecting you?
Actually, actually, I would say that it is the exact it is exactly the same thing because we do a lot of virtual shows, we do a lot of live streaming, but we do it for abroad. We do it mostly for the United States. We are very happy to do it, by the way, but no one in France asked us to do it. So, coronavirus or not coronavirus, um, the our actual our situation, our present situation, is exactly the same.
Huh.
Tomorrow. I don't know if you have heard of this new group called Virtual Steamcon, run by someone called Willstone Dogstone. We do a private live stream tomorrow on this group called Virtual SteamCon. It is in the United States. It just the only problem for us is that we even if we live in a house, we have neighbors, and then we can't live stream after midnight. Well, we haven't tried. Perhaps we could do it, but we don't want to have any problem with our neighbors. Then we will be live streaming at 11 our time zone, and then it will be 5 p.m. in the east coast of the United States. Um, it is exactly the same in a way. It hasn't changed. Well, we are on the lockdown. We live stream and we play for the same people than we are playing live in real life. The same.
Um, do you find that you get benefits from it? Are people uh, buying band merchandise? Are people signing up for your mailing list? One of the challenges is that um, because of the, right now at least, speaking in at the very end of April 2020, people don't look at putting in the same budget of any sort, not just ticket budget, but of course the investment in travel, rooms, meals, the same the same financial investment, and they get a different kind of experience. Uh, and that, I would imagine, makes it difficult for people to um, compensate you. I guess that in a situation where you might be playing in other countries, uh, as part of a tour and not as part of. I guess actually that helps with some of your international work, and that I would imagine that it's uh, logistically and financially easier to do a show in the United States when you're doing it from your home in France.
You're right. You're right. You're right. It is the 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 downside is that we don't have a live audience in front of us. We don't have people dancing and cheering in front of us. The plus side is you're right that the organizers don't have to pay for those awful travel expenses to bring us to the US, and then they when it is way easier for us to book us, and actually I think that perhaps it gives us the opportunity to touch more people, perhaps not used to go, they people who don't used to go to conventions or to concerts or to festivals. I don't know. Probably. I always want to take the max of a situation, and to look on the bright side of life. If you see what I mean. Um, okay, we are under lockdown, but probably this group I was talking about to you. Never would have the finances to bring us to any event of that, to any of their events. So it's an opportunity to touch more people. Finally, this crisis.
So, so in some ways, because I believe, as everyone else does, that the epidemic is horrible and tragic and painful for all of us. But I believe if we can, we should look on any bright side that we can find.
Yeah.
This this does at least give us the opportunity to show more people that to show more work to more people. There was a meme going around for a year or two about the idea of people being paid an exposure that highlighted one of the dangers of that practice, one of the challenges, which is that certainly people can offer to pay in exposure when they when what they mean is that there won't be any real compensation. But it also overlooks the other side, that there are a lot of circumstances, depending on where you are. You don't necessarily have to be a small business or a small or lesser known band to be in that situation, where some kinds of exposure are very directly helpful. They gain a fan base which can gain Patreon followers, people who buy your music, people who like your music videos. Um, and now we've been seeing, as far as I can tell, this is what I've been seeing as a promoter. We've been at a bit of a crisis in the music industry in general, where people have access to so much music through streaming services, and at the moment, streaming services, even if you're fairly successful on them, and given that part of the power of most streaming services is they offer tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, I haven't even counted, millions of different songs by different artists, it's hard to be a huge standout unless you're already, uh, Bruce Springsteen or uh, Billie Eilish. Um, More power to both of them. They're both great musicians. This may actually be part of the time that we start really learning that the older business model was very difficult for people. Now, that being said, from everything I hear from all of my performer friends, the loss of income from touring, from playing out, from paying gigs in person, has been huge. The loss of the at least closing and possible loss of the businesses that have been venues, be they hotels to bars to theaters has been huge and very painful, and that's a big issue that I don't think we have time for today. I only have a couple more minutes myself, but this might be, on the plus side, at least the beginning of people seeing that there are a lot of ways that we can support musicians virtually, and that we need to support musicians virtually, or we will not have musicians anymore.
Yes, and and anyway, I posted something a few weeks ago on my Facebook page. It is that our studio, is a no whining zone. Then we don't want to complain. Okay, life is very hard because of the lockdown, but in any situation you can have, not any situation, but in this kind of situation, which is not the worst of the situation humanity can live, you have opportunities to grab, and probably, as I was saying just before, probably we have reached out to people who'd never heard of us otherwise.
So there's sort of a silver lining.
I'm sorry.
So there's sort of a silver lining.
Yes, yes, of course. Um, I'm not the one to complain. I'm not the one to complain because I'm fed up with all these people having. We are not to we are not in the worst situation. There are people in a very, very, way worse situation than we are in. Uh, we can perform, we can rehearse, we can play, we can live stream. We can the only thing, we have postponed the release of our fifth album. Well, big deal, big deal. We have postponed the release of our fifth album. We don't have to complain in any way. We will release our fifth album a little later in the year, or even in next year. We don't have to. Um, Life is hard. Okay, we don't have the hardest life. We have the hardest life on this planet at the moment.
That's a really positive attitude. That's a really good way of looking at it.
Yes, people think, when people think of Victor Sierra, when people read the lyrics, when people think of our universe, of course we have some kind of despair in the lyrics, in the universe, and in our world. But we are not desperate. Actually, we can be desperate, but there's always a way out.
You know, I think I think that not everyone who creates dark music or dystopian premises is necessarily someone who is in desperate straits or someone whose outlook on the world is negative. And in fact, I know plenty of people who, myself included, will often listen to sad music or dark music to get into a bright mood or to get motivated or get excited.
Yes. Yes, in Yiddish we would say ototot.
Commander Bob, I should probably go. It's in I have a new book coming out in a day and a half. I need to work on that. I would love, now that we've got the technical difficulties ironed out, I'd love to talk to you again. Is there anything you would like to say before we go?
That we have this show tomorrow on this Facebook group, which is called Virtual SteamCon. It's at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be 10 in the UK, 11 in France, in Paris. Uh, and what else? Thank you very much, Magic Jeff, for this interview.
De
Uh,
rien.
You know, I'm ready to talk to you every time, to speak with you anytime. And thank you for this opportunity to talk about Victor Sierra. And what else? Stay safe. Stay
Yes,
safe.
you too. Stay safe. Um, we didn't talk about it, but it sounds like Anouk is recovering well from.
Yes.
If I might mention it, uh, Anouk had the coronavirus, or
Yeah.
may still have it, but Baruch Hashem, she seems to be recovering well.
Yes. But Hashem, she's much better. Thank you for no for telling about us about her.
I will just give a simple sign off. Friends, please do check out Victor Sierra, victorsierra.net and victorsierra.bandcamp.com. My guest has been the amazing Commander Bob of Victor Sierra. Bob, it is a pleasure to speak to you, and thank you for making time for me. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I will talk to you very soon.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jeff. L'chaim.
L'chaim,
And sei gesund as always.
and sei gesund.
Sei gesund.